This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. But we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 20th of July 2020, and I am 2J.
I'm 2M.
And I am DM. Let's take a look at today's headlines. On the Daily Nation, NYS ghosts haunt Raila key ally. The Standard, all eyes on Uhuru. And finally, The Star, hackers flood online classes with porn. Let's begin with the Daily Nation.
Yes, NYS ghosts haunt Raila key ally. The Daily Nation is telling us that there is an investigation underway. EACC officers are on the trail of millions of shillings paid out for tenders, and they're narrowing down the companies to which they found. ODM legislator Junet Mohammed is listed as one of the directors. So they say they're going back to NYS1 to kind of trace where some of the money may have gone. And they found that the lawmaker may have directly or indirectly received some money from the money that was taken. They say then, when they look further into it, that his brother is one of the directors of a company called Zygham Enterprises. And that further into that, his brother-in-law, who was then acting as Chief Administrative Secretary for Sports, who is married to Junet's sister, also received some money. It's a very tangled web.
Yeah.
And so they're saying the issue here is that it was a failure to reveal that his in-laws were directors in a company which was awarded a tender.
Yes, yeah.
Very complicated web.
Let me tell you, and I've always been against this. I don't think it is right to publish such details in a national newspaper. And that's because in the court of public opinion, these people are already guilty. That's what they're trying to tell us. He has not been taken to a court of law. So why splash this kind of details out there?
Yeah.
You're ruining people's homes by making people look guilty. And sometimes they're even not guilty.
Yeah, I looked at this headline first of all, and I thought, are we condemned to perpetual headlines about investigations?
And I think we might be.
We might be.
The media in this country is guilty of having Kenyans have very mediocre ideas and also opinions, because if you're going to carry this out on a national newspaper and say someone or X stole from this company, this national institution, then and the relatives are mentioned, it means they cannot do business again with other entities.
I know. However, I think, yes, on one part we do blame the media, but on the other, I mean, we've seen here that Haji is part of this as well. And I think we talked about this with Awar and Kimwarer, how, you play it out in the media before you take it to court. It's a waste of time.
It is. But the other thing also is that it's so easy in our country to set up or accuse people of corruption, because it's easily believed there's already a background of acceptance around people in public offices being corrupt. And for that reason, it is then used as a political weapon, which then dilutes the actual fight against corruption.
Absolutely.
We have a three-part criteria that we use to analyze the headlines for you. We ask, is the headline topical or speculative? Is it repetitive or groundbreaking? And finally, is the headline effective or just plain lazy? What do you think about this headline?
Is it thoughtful and just plain lazy?
They're just telling us what happened.
Okay, but anyway.
So we toss the Daily Nation, and in the Standard, why are eyes on Uhuru?
All eyes on Uhuru. You see, pressure is mounting on President Uhuru Kenyatta to reshuffle his cabinet to accommodate his new political allies. If you remember, Wiper, KANU, Chama Shinani have all joined Jubilee under collaborative agreement. And now there's pressure on Uhuru Kenyatta to do a reshuffle, a cabinet reshuffle that will see some of the fellows of these parties appointed as ministers and CSs and CASs. And they also say that about 10 PSs have already cleared their desks, knowing that the hammer is about to fall. The axe is about to fall. So, and
apparently they're also they've stopped driving their company, their government cars rather.
Yes, and they're using private cars. And by the way, that's clever, because
it's pragmatic.
You're being pragmatic there. You know the sovereign has the power to hire and to fire, and you appointed he has a discretion to hire and fire.
I think this story is highly speculative. However, they're saying that there is pressure, but the pressure on the president, but the pressure, as you said, to him might be coming from the Standard newspaper.
Knowing who the owner is.
In the Star, we're told that hackers have flooded classes with porn. This is a horrific story because now that we are in the midst of a pandemic, a lot of most classes are online now. And what is happening is that some malicious hackers break into the online classes and flood it with pornographic material, with vulgarities and with sexual harassment. And they're doing this from classes up to play groups, little children, all the way to secondary schools. And this, the report in the Star is telling us that there's a Kenyan school, they call it an upmarket school, where this happened in standard 7 and 8 classes. The main suspect or the main feature platform in the article is Zoom, the meeting platform Zoom. And actually this practice is called Zoom bombing, and it's not just in Kenya, it's all over the world. This is something that is being experienced globally. In fact, in India, the government suspended the use of Zoom.
If anything, this story has made me think about the two sides of technology. On one hand, it's become very useful and very helpful in connecting people. We can have meetings, we don't have to physically be together. But on the other hand, it means that we as the users have a responsibility to understand the security behind those things. So a lot of people don't know that with Zoom, you are able to defend and protect yourself. So if you're not taking that upon yourself, especially when it comes to children, you know, in the same way you don't allow a child to be picked up by a guardian who you do not know. In the same way, you should be very careful the kind of safety measures you keep around items like Zoom.
Absolutely.
You need to be informed.
And this problem apparently is so rampant now, and people are taking advantage of the technical deficiencies that exist in these platforms. But the thing is, it's not just Zoom, it's all the it's all the meeting platforms. The thing is, nobody knew we were going to go into a pandemic. So their customer base increased exponentially, and they all were not able to keep up with the sheer amount of demand and firewall their IT systems to provide higher security. But I think this also presents an opportunity for a local opportunity for our Kenya IT geniuses to come up with solutions. Last week we were saying money follows solutions, and the best problems to solve are the ones that approximate to us. So this is a challenge to all the young geniuses out there.
Do you know what, guys? I suspect this story could be true. Could be true. But I think the Star has a paid headline. And I think these are corporate wars. There's some corporate wars happening here. Here is why. You see, when government departments are meeting these days, what are they using? They're using Zoom. Now, you can have competitors who may not like that situation, and now they come up with that thing.
With strategies,
with strategies, and come up with a term called Zoom bombing. And maybe this term has been there for some while. But they are creating a background of acceptance so that government or people can stop using Zoom and start using other solutions, competitor solutions.
So it's corporate warfare.
It's corporate warfare, and you use a story that touches the heart completely.
Of course, Children, nobody.
Even for me, reading this story, it was sickening. So what is our winning headline? I quite like the Standard.
I like the Standard. All eyes on Uhuru.
I'll go with the Standard.
Very succinct. So the Standard gives us our winning headline, and we toss the rest. On to the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. And just like the headlines, we have a 3-part criteria that we use to analyze them for you. We ask, is the cartoon humorous or dry? Is it satirical or pessimistic? And finally, is the cartoon effective or just plain lazy? In the Daily Nation, Ndula has drawn 2 doors. Iga has drawn 2 doors. One of the doors says formal employment, and it is locked with a big padlock the shape of COVID, and there's a long line of graduates there waiting for it to be reopened. The other door has agribusiness on it, and it's not open. It's open rather. There's no door on it, and in there you can see big juicy cow udders with a $sign on it, and there's a bucket there full of what looks like money. So there's a cash cow in there. So interesting cartoon, and I think this follows the EU recently providing 2.2 billion shillings in grants for a period of 5 years to young people, particularly women, in agribusiness. So you guys saying that there is money in agribusiness, but because of the glamorization, I suppose, that we have placed on white collar business work and on seeking a job and on degrees, then people are.
I don't understand why people look down on agriculture as a form of, you know, sustainable income. There's so much money to be made, and if anything, I think that if people are going to continue glamorizing degrees, the bare minimum that you can do is at least translate that degree into a way that you can use it in agribusiness.
Absolutely.
I think if you do engineering, how can you develop, you know, new innovations to make agriculture more, you know, sustainable and easy?
Education is actually just a tool for you to perfect your craft and your ideas. You don't need a degree to be successful.
No,
there are
absolutely
many
not.
fellows in this country who are just super wealthy, but they just dropped out of class 4.
And I think the highest form of work is creation, and creation is things that you do with your hands.
And if Africa is going to feed the world, I think we need to get into agriculture and take it seriously.
So I quite like that cartoon.
I liked it. Surprisingly, I liked it.
I think let's look at the Standard and the Star together. They're both tributes. What has Gado drawn there?
It's drawn caricature of the just departed Charles Bukeko, otherwise popularly known as Papa Shirandula, who was buried today. And he's very well known for his show Papa Shirandula and so many adverts that he's done for a lot of the companies.
Coca-Cola,
Safaricom.
And in the Star as well.
And the Star as well. There is telling us it's
Bukeko again.
The action thing. What's it called? That thing filmmakers
It's a clapper.
It's a clapper
and a camera, and he's there in action acting, and he's wearing perhaps what the costume for what he was most known for, which is our watchman's uniform in the show Papa Shirandula.
He's a big hit to the entertainment industry.
He was a wonderful actor, and this is a really big loss to all of us nationally.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful, both of them are beautiful tributes, and I saw it and I was thinking, the family did confirm that he died from the coronavirus, and I saw this and I thought, I really hope that we do not see any more of these tributes in the coming months.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and out of respect, we will not toss
those two, definitely, yes, of course.
I suggest we also keep the Nation one. Iga.
Yes, I think Iga did a great job today.
For the first time, a comic strip Monday was successful. So
Iga of the Daily Nation gives us our winning cartoon. Before we get into our final thought, we'd like to remind our viewers to please subscribe to our YouTube channel. So what is our final thought?
And now our final thought. Wow, this book. Inspired by a book entitled Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man. What Men Really Think About Love, Relationships, Intimacy and Commitment by Steve Harvey. Man, I love this book.
Oh boy.
By a clown called Steve Harvey.
Here we go. This week, the theme is going to be relationships. And so today, as Tuam has said, we're going to start out with Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, which I think is more of an opinion-based book than a factual-based one. So I think we all know who Steve Harvey is. Radio, TV show host, and he also delved a little bit into writing about relationships. And so in this book, he lets women inside the mindset of a man and sheds some lights on some concepts and answers some questions. So apparently, according to Steve Harvey, when it comes to relationships, women cannot figure out what makes men tick, what makes them going. Why? Because according to him, it's because we are often asking other women for advice when no one but another man is able to tell them how to keep and find a man. And so he writes, and I'll read this verbatim, he says that A, too many women are clueless about men. B, men get away with a lot of things in relationships because women have never understood how men think. And C, he says, I've got a lot of valuable information to help you change all of this. And so he says that there is no truer statement than men are simple. I agree, finally. And that they all think in a similar way. He says that women need to understand a few essential things about about men. And he says that there are 3 truths. That men are driven by who they are, what they do, and how much they make. And so he says that whether a man is a CEO or a con man or both, everything he does is filtered through his title, who he is, how he gets that title, what he does, and the rewards he gets for his efforts, how much money he makes. And so he invites women to think like a man. He asks you to think of some certain steps that happen throughout a man's life. The moment a baby boy is born, the very first thing he hears is that he must be a real man. He must be tough. He has to stand up without crying. Then later he's taught that he has to work hard. He has to protect. And he's taught to value himself through the lens of those things, who he is, what he does, and how much he makes. And so Harvey's argument here is that each of these things are taught in preparation for just one thing, manhood. And so he believes that until men are able to achieve these three truths, a man cannot be what a woman wants him to be. He cannot give you the attention you need because he is searching for something else for himself. And so he then goes on to discuss something he calls the 3 Ps that men want to do in their relationships once they arrive at those truths. That they want to profess their love, they want to protect their woman, and they want to provide for her. And if anything, everything in this book just screamed toxic masculinity to me. And for those who don't know, in social sciences, that's a term that's refers to traditional cultural masculine norms. So be a man, don't cry, take care of your family, make money. And so these things are very harmful to men and women alike, and also to society. But I think that at the end of the day, relationships are hard work. And I think Harvey paints a bit of a world where most of the hard work lays on the hands of a woman, which I think is completely unfair. And even though this book was only released 12 years ago, I have to say it has aged terribly, right?
It has aged terribly.
So badly. I mean, even a movie was made out of it. And so I think for me, it was a bit of a love-hate read. I enjoyed some parts, I disliked some other parts. And I would like to suggest that somebody write a companion book entitled Act Like a Gentleman, Think Like a Woman.
What do you think to him? Would you buy it?
No.
Oh, well, all right.
Tell
us your
more.
thoughts.
Now, what I'm about to say, I know I will be sacrificed.
All right, go ahead.
And as I was reading this book, I came across the chapter, Why Men Cheat. Central thesis of this, according to me, is cheating by mans is reasonable.
Sorry?
Cheating by mans is reasonable.
All right.
Okay.
That's my reading of it. And he says men cheat because men don't view physical intimacy the way women do, period. And he says for women, an act of physical intimacy is emotional. It's an act of love, all right? But for men, when they cheat, emotions are not the driving force. He says that physical intimacy can be purely physical act for men, and has absolutely nothing to do with love. Now, to be able to validate this, he talks about a letter called the Strawberry Letter. And it's a letter written by a woman who was married for 20 years about her husband. So I've taken a small excerpt from this letter, and I want to read it to you. This is what she wrote. He said that he has gotten older. He has been wondering if he's still attractive and appealing, and that attention from another younger woman would boost his ego. Then he asked me if I would be willing to give him permission to have physical intimacy with other women if he promised to let them know upfront that it's only physical intimacy he's interested in and is not interested in a relationship. He even offered to answer any questions I'd have with his encounters, or if I didn't want to know about it, or to just do it and not tell me what and when it happened. Obviously, he's got a problem with monogamy. Should I consent so that a potential for sneaking around can be eliminated? What can I do to get him to change his thinking, if anything? And Steve Harvey answers her, and she says the answer to that question in the Strawberry Letter is not much. There's nothing much you can do. Because for this guy, it was something that he may have made him feel good physically, but emotionally, his heart, the professing, providing, and protecting, he says for the woman he loves. Now that's his wife, maybe at home with his woman. Look, I agree a lot with this and disagree somewhat a little. And let me explain why. You see, it is possible for a man to cheat for other reasons. It's not just a physical act. Maybe he's allied. He loves this other person, that this side piece he has. But then again, and I want to be very careful with this, I think it is rational for the man to go and seek other pleasures out there for him to sustain his marriage. And there's a reason why. Because if he stays with I'll stop there.
You have done well to do so.
That you were digging quite a hole.
And the titling of that section you were reading should not be our reason why men cheat, but an excuse why men cheat. Men or women also cheat. And it's never a reason that is justifiable because somebody else did this or that. It is a bad choice that you are making because, amongst other reasons, you are behaving badly.
You know, Dema also, actually, I forgot what I wanted to say last time. What he's saying without saying it is, women, be reasonable, give your man some leeway to do some of that hard stuff.
Will the men provide the same leeway?
I thought he was done digging the hole. He somehow managed to find more.
It's not me saying it. It's him.
In the interest of this conversation not deteriorating, let me say the things that I did not agree with in this book. In fact, I found that it was just over 200 pages of hogwash. I'll only mention two things, but I have a lot of thoughts. The first one is that the false premise that Steve Harvey gives people, and by the way, this book should not be called a self-help book, it's a self-destructive book. One of the false premises that he gives is that relationships are based on transactions that are tangible. And the problem with tangible transactions, and the transactions like that happen in the marketplace, they're based on what? An exchange. And it's an exchange of commodities, exchange of resources, or whatever other means that you have. Now the problem is that these transactions are unstable, and they're unstable because resources are not limitless. You can run out. So if we're exchanging physical intimacy with money, when your money runs out, when you don't have a job, when you're incapacitated as a man, then our relationship has no basis anymore. The transaction is no longer tenable. And this is a false premise, and this is what this man is peddling in this book.
Yes.
Relationships are, yes, based on transactions, but those transactions are not tangible. They are things that should be limitless, like kindness and caring and love. And it is two ways. Because relationships are about two autonomous, sovereign human beings coming together. And these people have different purposes in life. And the main tangible transaction, I believe, should be support for each other.
Yes.
So that whole premise just falls apart. Then the other thing that this entire book is premised on is that relationship should be attained and maintained using manipulation. Because even in the title, he's saying women should think like a man. Not think like themselves. The premise of a relationship also is compatibility, and you are compatible, and people are compatible with different people.
Yes.
But the main premise of compatibility is authenticity. So if you pretend, because Steve Harvey is telling women, dress this way. Do not be physically intimate for this prescribed number of days, which I don't know how he scientifically arrived at. Act like a girl. He's telling grown people how to behave.
But he says also at the same time, do not do too much that you stop your man from feeling like a man. Do not fix things in the house. Do not take out the trash, because you have to allow your man to feel needed and wanted.
In fact, this negates that notion that he is also peddling, that men are all powerful beings, because he's infantilizing them by calling women to be so sensitive around them. I know this book is a pile of hogwash.
It's not everything he says in this book that's 100% correct. There are a lot of things I disagree with. But there's one thing he's done. He's created very uncomfortable conversations in this thing. And you know what? A lot of these things that we are reading right now is what's happening in society. This is what happens behind closed doors. And I think as much as we may not like it, I think it's also time we start having some of these conversations. He may not be right, but somewhere we can get consensus.
This book was written in 2009, not in the 18th century. That is the shocking part about it.
I'm very disappointed.
Anyway, I hadn't.
I'm very disappointed. I'm not the one.
I'm disappointed because I really thought that this would be an opportunity because I knew what views you were going to have on this book. I knew that you were going to say it was fantastic. So I was expecting
I really
that you
enjoyed
would.
it. You see,
I was expecting that you would come and defend it.
It's a man writing to women.
I'm sorry. Would you let me finish? I was expecting.
This is a book that is written to women. I just happened to just take
which is problematic in itself. What gives Steve Harvey the right to give women instruction on how they should be, how they should behave? And he's not writing it in a reciprocal way. I hadn't even finished what I was saying about this book being premised on manipulation. We always say here, it doesn't go wrong, it starts wrong. And if a relationship is premised on me being manipulative in order to attain you and then to maintain you,
Steve Harvey, a lot of men agree.
Shambles.
A lot of men agree with you.
Shambles.
Write another one. Version 2, I will read.
Version 2, what you should write, Steve Harvey, is act like a human being and think like yourself.
Amen.
Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are also on your TV screens. On Pang Free to Air, Star Times, and Go TV. Have a good evening and see you tomorrow.
Yes.